Namaste, everyone. I hope I'm coming through clearly, and welcome to this live talk hosted by the International Sanatana Dharma Society on our official ISDS Discord. And I will not be giving a long introduction. I just wanted to welcome you all here. I recognize most, if not all of you, and it's very good to see you. Today, Acharyaji will be giving a talk on Vedic love and marriage, which is a very, very exciting topic for me because it is not really talked about much today. So without much further introduction, I will hand over and the floor to my beloved Guru, Sri Dharma Pravartaka Acharya.
Very good. Namaste, everyone. Jaya Shriman Narayana. First of all, thank you to everyone for being here. It looks like we have a very nice group of people here on Discord. I was hoping that this would be a very popular topic, and thus far it looks like it is, since we have a nice large group of people here for this Q&A. Thank you, Krishna Prasada, for that wonderful brief introduction, as well as all of your help behind the scenes. And let me first explain to people precisely what it is that we will be doing today. We're talking about Vedic guidance on relationships and marriage. And indeed, as Krishna Prasada explained, this is a topic that not many people speak about today. Even gurus, real and apparent, even other individuals who claim to represent Vedic culture and civilization, it's a topic that not many people speak about. And that's very surprising, actually. The reason why it's surprising is because this has become one of the most important topics in the 21st century. That is, many multiple allied topics and questions. How it is that we even establish a relationship. How do you find the right person? What does it mean to date, become engaged, etc.? Once you find someone who is wonderful for you as a partner and you then get married, what happens after that? All the dynamics, etc., etc., etc. Well, this is something which, despite the fact that these questions are indeed crucial, again, not many people speak about. And that's why I thought it would be very important to speak about this today. What I'm going to do is I am first going to give a very brief talk, and it will be brief, maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that. But then we're going to have Q&A. For individuals who don't know or understand this, and some don't, not so much here on Discord, I'm speaking of the general public. It's always surprising to me that people don't quite understand this. Family, healthy traditional family, that is a man, a biological man. How interesting, we even have to say that today. 10 years ago, people would have thought you were crazy, that you even had to make that clear. But yes, a biological man married to a biological woman in a loving relationship in which God is in the center, and with the eventual idea that they have children. How many children? As many as their success in life can afford. This is the idea of family. And it's always surprising to me when people don't quite understand that indeed this sort of family is at the very center of all the Vedic civilization from the very beginning until now. We know this. We have seen this. Again, as I always challenge people, all you have to do to prove this to yourself within minutes is pick up one of the Vedic scriptures, and certain ones especially. If you look at the Mahabharata, if you look at the Ramayana, if you look at the Puranas, again, scriptures that especially contain a lot of story to them, where you see the stories of individuals who were married, who had children, and you see just how important is Vedic family to Vedic civilization. Indeed, I've said this many times before, but I want to reiterate this now, especially because we're speaking about family. Even our greatest sages, no, not just okay sages, not just, they're all right, they kind of halfway made it there. No, our greatest sages, meaning the rishis, the individuals who indeed revealed our very scriptures themselves, and many of whom are spoken about in the Vedic scriptures. The vast, vast, vast majority of these rishis were married. They were married, they had children, they had grandchildren. And again, sometimes this surprises people, but it really, really shouldn't. Again, family is the very heart, the very center of everything in Sanatana Dharma and Vedic civilization. And again, when we speak about family, we're talking about the traditional family unit. Today, of course, people have made up this concept because people no longer believe that truth is something that is real, and you can make up your own truth, you can make up your own anything. Indeed, you can make up your own gender, as I was saying a short time ago. You can pretend that you're a puppy dog as a 50-year-old man. You can pretend that you're anything. But in actuality, Sanatana Dharma teaches that there are certain things that are absolutes, and you cannot make these things up. When in Vedic civilization we speak about the family, we are indeed speaking about the traditional family unit, the traditional family structure. As I said, a man, a woman, and children, and with a household, grihasta. The term for family is grihasta, grihasta. Interestingly, in a Vedic civilization, and I'm talking about a Vedic civilization, right now, upon the visible earth, there is no Vedic civilization upon the visible earth. That is what we can see with our eyes. But in the past, there were visible Vedic civilizations. Oh, and not just in India. Indeed, one of the grandest Vedic civilizations was Angkor Wat. These civilizations existed throughout all of what is called South Asia, from Pakistan to Nepal to Bangladesh to all the way down to Sri Lanka and Kumarikandam, which is no longer there. We're talking about Southeast Asia. We're talking about as far as the Philippines and Indonesia, but also Afghanistan. We're talking about Central Asia. We're talking about ancient pre-Zoroastrian Persia. What we see is that at one time the world consisted of hundreds and hundreds of Vedic civilizations, plural. Indeed, I argue that if you go back to extremely early Europe, you also see Vedic civilizations there in terms of city-states. But in all of these Vedic civilizations, especially the larger ones, what do we see? We see that with a Vedic civilization, there is a matrix of millions of families, of household units. That's a Vedic civilization. That's how it's defined. And that is what it is seen. So in other words, if somehow you could go into a time machine, which you can't, time travel is an impossibility, according to all the ancients. But if you could, we'll pretend it's Star Trek. If you could go back 3,000 years, let's say, and go to an actual, still existing Vedic civilization, what would you see? You would see this divine matrix of millions of healthy families, and that was the foundation of everything, of all Vedic civilization. Now, what did these look like? Well, first of all, these were called grihasta ashramas. Grihasta ashramas. Indeed, when you are married, you're considered to be in the grihasta ashrama. Now, we've heard this word ashrama before, of course, usually in the Hindiized version, ashram, which is incorrect. It's ashrama. There is an A on the end in Sanskrit. When we hear about these places, what do we tend to think about? Oh, we tend to think about, at the grandest, a hermitage that, let's say, an ancient rishi would have, or today we think of some swami, some yogi, some guru, who has a place where celibate students can go and study, etc. That is an ashrama, for sure. But again, is it not interesting that the family unit is also called grihasta ashrama? The reason why this is the case is because, indeed, the household family, the house itself, interestingly, but also especially the family within, are considered to be an ashrama. It is considered to be a place that is meant to be sacred, where, indeed, it is a place of purity, it is a place of goodness, it is a place of light, it is a place of teaching, of learning, it is a place of spiritual growth and development, and on and on and on. Just like we associate with this word ashram, traditionally, the family unit is meant to be the same thing. And that's why it's called this. So can you imagine the spiritual and, interestingly, material strength of a nation that is comprised of, let's say, 1 million family ashramas like this, where with every family unit in every home, you know that you could enter into anyone's home if you're invited to go in, and what would you see? What would you see? You would see individuals who, to the best of their ability, because no one is equal, no one is the same, to the best of their ability, they have tried to transcendentalize their home in such a way that their family will grow and prosper both materially and spiritually. What you will see is that on their bookshelf, they may have books that pertain to their profession, but they'll also have Bhagavad Gita, they'll also have Srimad Bhagavatam, they'll have Vedic scriptures, etc., etc. What else will you see? You will see that at the center of the home is not what is at the center of the home today in modern America. What's at the center of the home today? It is the god of entertainment. It is a big screen TV. And the entrapping nature of the big screen TV has only gotten worse and worse and worse. Where at one time it was just a TV. People, at least have seen images of TVs in the 50s. And it was a big, big box that just sat there. It was black and white. It was not that entertaining, but it was better than radio. Well, what do we have now? It's inconceivable what we have now. You can watch everything and anything. You can play any game, etc., etc. on television. That is the center of most homes today. How demonic. In a Vedic home, we have literally the opposite. At the center of a Vedic home is the altar. An altar, and it can be big, it can be small, but it is the center of the home, both as far as where it's geographically situated, but also it is the center of the home because the hearts of those individuals living in that home revolve around that little altar or big altar. So again, this is what a Vedic family looks like. Let's go on just a little bit more. As far as education in a Vedic family, the traditional way of education consists of two things. First of all, a lot of homeschooling. So indeed, homeschooling is something that is dharmic. Today, not so much anymore, not in the last 5 or 10 years, but I remember when in the 70s, if a person was homeschooled, they were really considered to be an odd person. What? You are teaching your children yourself? Oh my God, that was considered insane 20, 30 years ago. Now, of course, it's changed a lot. There are millions upon millions of people homeschooling, and it seems to go up by I don't know how many per day of families who are doing this. Well, this is Vedic. If you have the opportunity to teach your children at the home, in the home, that's what you do. And then, of course, when the child gets old enough, there is the Gurukula system. And let me tell you, in a Vedic culture, even in India up until 200 years ago, actually, a little bit more than 200, there were tens of thousands of Gurukulas, of schools, Vedic schools for children throughout India. They were shut down by the British. They were shut down by the Masonic Abrahamists, is more accurate to say. Because it has nothing to do with nationality. The British people are good people and innocent people. It was shut down by the individuals who controlled the colonial system. They shut down all of these Gurukulas. Well, this is something that is a Vedic institution, the Gurukula. So this is how children are educated, a combination of homeschooling and then eventually sending your child, not to some demonic secular public school run by centralized bureaucrats. But no, you send your children to the home of the Guru. Again, there are many words for home. It's interesting. Bhavana is one. Kula is another. Gurukula means the home of the Guru. So this is where you send your child at a certain age, and this is how they're educated. Let's just talk a little bit more about the concept of Vedic marriage. Divorce, the idea of divorce, the idea even of separation, what to speak of divorce, in Vedic culture is non-existent. It's non-existent. The idea is that once you get married, first of all, you must be careful in who you marry. A lot of people have this stereotype that, in traditional Vedic culture you have arranged marriages. Well, that is actually true. But these were not just quote-unquote arranged willy-nilly. First of all, these were arranged by the families who knew each other, who trusted each other, families where they saw their own children growing up, they knew their children intimately, what they like, what they don't like, etc. And then they arrange a marriage. But the point is, even with arranged marriages, people have this idea that they kind of find someone in the street and say, oh, you're going to marry my son. That's not how it works. No, you know the person who will be marrying your son, who will be marrying your daughter intimately, because you probably knew them when they were a child. And this is the important point, is that whether it's arranged, whether like today, it's not, and it's a matter of just an individual looking for a good partner, the person has to be very, very careful. You don't just find someone and after a week you just get married to them. No, you have to make sure that you have everything in common such that once you do get married, the two of you will be married for the rest of your lives. So divorce was something that was non-existent. The married couple would be together until the very end. Till the very end. And today, especially in the Kali Yuga, because why speak theoretically about other yugas? That is speaking theoretically. In the Kali Yuga specifically, it says in the Vedic scriptures that we are not to practice sannyasa today. And in the ISDS, we do not. So when it comes to individuals staying together in the Grihastha Ashrama as Vanaprastha, that is when they finally retire, the couple is together forever until one or both of them finally passes away, hopefully in old age. But the idea of the man leaving and going off to become a sannyasi, that is not something that's acceptable in the Kali Yuga, again, as per the Vedic scriptures. So this is the idea, is that they are together forever. Now, more than this, it's not merely that family is the very center of Vedic civilization, but now speaking historically more recently, because we know that for the last 2,000 years, well, a little bit more than that, really, for the last, let's say, 2,500, 3,000 years, since almost the beginning of the Kali Yuga, we've seen that there have been fewer Vedic civilizations, to the point where today, in 2024, there are none visible upon the earth. So, talking about more recent history, what we've seen is that all of those more recent cultures, most of which have been influenced either directly or indirectly by Vedic civilization, whether they wish to admit this or not, doesn't matter, they have been. What we see is that even in more modern societies, not the last 100 years, talking about, within the last 2,000 years, even within these cultures, family has been seen as being the center of everything. You can even look at Christianity, for example, in the early Christianity, the medieval era, all the way up through the Renaissance, up until modernity. And what do you see in Christian society, whether Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox? You see, again, family, and as described, traditional family has been at the center of everything. We see this in Islamic culture. We certainly see this in all of the pre-Abrahamic cultures, all of the so-called paganisms of Europe, etc., etc. Family has been everything. So we know that this is the case. We know that this is the norm, the traditional family. This is not something, as many perverse people today would say, it's not something that is oppressive, that is strange. No. The opposite of the traditional family constitutes the strange, and the very recent, actually. So again, this is what we have seen, is that family is the center of everything. Now, what we have seen is that since 1848, there has been a concerted effort to destroy the family and the family unit. Why do I say 1848 very specifically? Because this is one of the first times. It's not the first. There were a few people a little bit previous to this, several of the so-called young Hegelians in Europe. But it was in 1848 that for the first time, really, overtly in writing, it was stated that the goal of the demonic individuals is the destruction of the family. That is when the Communist Manifesto was written by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. And they say it very directly. Indeed, it's one of the planks of the Communist Party. First written in 1848, the destruction of the family. And from then until now, we have seen that there has been wave upon wave upon wave of ideological and cultural, indeed even spiritual attack upon the traditional family unit. Of course, what we've seen is that the latest attack has been since the 60s. Post-60s America, the West, now the world. And we have seen that, again, the entire world vis-a-vis the idea of family has been turned upside down. It has been inverted to the point where, indeed, many individuals consider the family, the traditional, wonderful, healthy family unit, again, to be oppressive, to be fuddy-duddy, old-fashioned, all these silly statements that are devoid of philosophical content or spiritual power of any kind. They'll use all these words to try to attack the family. What have we seen very specifically since the so-called 60s? Quite a few things. Since the 1960s, we have seen the overt attack against religion. And that in many ways, starting in the early 60s, I forget the exact time, I think maybe it was 1963, when the Supreme Court, which was a very corrupt Supreme Court in that era, decided to throw prayer out of the public schools. We've seen religion recede from the public square since the 1960s. We've seen religion under attack in every way. We've seen the media attack religion. We know, we watch any movie from, let's say, the late 60s on, and religion is almost never shown in a good light. Unless it's a satanic cult, then they'll try to make that look interesting to people. But we know that Hollywood hates religion. And more, so has government, so has all the institutions, education, etc. What we have seen since the 60s has been the sexual revolution. This alone has led to the destruction of so many healthy and otherwise good relationships, to the point where, as we know, what is the statistic now? 50% of marriages in America at least end up in divorce eventually. That is horrific. That is something that 3 generations back would have been inconceivable. What we have also seen since the 60s that has helped to destroy family has been the prevalence of intoxication and specifically drugs. I was speaking with someone the other day about this actually, about how, you know, if you look, there have always been drugs, number one. You see the devil's advocate little baby voice in the corner from his little shadow was, oh, there's always been drugs. Yeah, but if you go back to the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, those individuals who indeed engaged in cocaine, heroin, etc., were so few, so difficult to find, that if someone found one of these individuals who was a drug addict or a druggie, it was like seeing a man with 3 heads. And I know. This is a fact. Now, it's so prevalent that everyone just assumes that everyone is taking drugs. This is how prevalent, this is how much the culture has changed. Do you understand, more than anything, the damage that drugs has done, to everything, but especially the family? And since the 60s, especially when drugs started to become quote-unquote normal, and now suddenly it was okay, it was cool for everyone to take drugs. Do you understand how many families since the 1960s, families, the parents of whom are dead now, and they had to struggle with their 16-year-old daughter in high school, starting with marijuana and ending up with heroin? Do you understand how many families have been destroyed by drugs? If you don't, then please look into it. Feminism. Feminism is an ideology that is predicated upon a lie. When young women, even today, we're talking about 2024, forget about first wave, second wave, third wave feminism, because feminism has been around really since the very late 1900s, one could argue. When people think of feminism now, let's say you have the typical college girl who's maybe 18, 19 years old, and she hears this word feminism, what comes to mind is the lie that the media gives us. All that feminism is saying that women are worthy of dignity, that they should be equal, they should not be abused. And it pretty much stops there. Number one, with what I just said, what conscious human being with an IQ above 7 would disagree with that? Of course women should not be abused. Of course women should be respected. Of course we should uphold the dignity of women, etc., etc. But that is not actually what is the real ideology of feminism. The actual ideology of feminism arises, especially again, latter-day feminism, starting really with Simone de Beauvoir in France and other feminist ideologues. Feminism today is predicated indeed upon cultural Marxism, upon the idea that no, there should be an eternal struggle, there should be an eternal conflict between men and women, and it's not enough for women to simply say, oh, I am worthy of respect. No, women are to hate men. That is modern feminism, to the point where many modern feminist thinkers today overtly say this and write it. Men are evil. This is an ideology that, needless to say, has undermined the family unit and must be eradicated. The LGBT movement. Oh yes, this is something that I of course have to be a little careful in speaking of. I will simply leave it at this. The LGBT movement does not exist in any way, shape, or form with the primary interest of helping individuals who are homosexuals and lesbians to live their life in peace, unpersecuted. Rather, the LGBT movement today exists in order to destroy the family, and more, to weaken men and boys. That is its actual raison d'être. That is its actual purpose. Now, just in case people thought I was only going to pick on the women, no. MGTOW is another ideology designed to destroy the family and men, interestingly. Oh, believe me, your guru knows everything about all these modern ideologies. That's what makes the ISDS a little bit different. I don't just know about the ideologies of the past, but rather I know MGTOW extremely well. Probably better than most MGTOW commentators. Indeed, I can guarantee that I do. MGTOW is an ideology, men going their own way, in which the idea is that in the same way that modern-day feminism teaches that there is something inherent, essentially wrong with men, men are born to abuse. So thus, interestingly, for an ideology that denies essentialism, it is also an ideology that upholds the idea of essentialism when it suits them. So in essence, men are evil and they're born to abuse. Well, MGTOW says the opposite. It's that simplistic. Oh, MGTOW says, oh, women are evil. Women just exist to take the resources of men, to use them, abuse them, and then move on to a man with more money. That's MGTOW. What a childish ideology, and an ideology that does not help the men who follow it. Indeed, I know the MGTOW ideology very well. The ultimate goal is what they call to go monk mode. What does that mean? To eventually be a guy who will never date a woman, never have children, and just basically live alone, living on pornography. And that's it. That's the goal. What a sad existence that MGTOW has for men, for single men. You will never get married, you will never seriously date, you will never seriously have a girlfriend, you will never seriously have a relationship. Your relationship will be with a two-dimensional screen, Pornhub, or whatever else suits your fancy. What a demonic ideology. And it is an anti-family ideology. In the same way, the incel phenomenon is another ideology which, let me assure you, at some point in the future, I am going to give an hour-long lecture on the incel phenomenon. It's something that I also know very intimately. And it is the saddest thing on earth of all these various ideologies and cultural phenomena that we've spoken about thus far. The incel phenomenon is one that is especially sad. These are young men who, due to the perverse nature of modernity and the meaninglessness that is now rampant in our culture because of the exorcising of all religion and spirituality, the incel phenomenon consists of millions of young men who have just given up. And who thus, for many of them, not all, but for many, sadly, they will not have a family. Why? Because they have given up. They have given up on themselves, first and foremost. These are young men who don't even know how to have a first date, what to speak of, how to act as a man in such a manner that you will actually attract a good, stable, mentally together, virtuous woman who will want to spend her life with you. It's the saddest of all things. And again, at some point in the future, because this is a more prevalent phenomenon that I think most even understand, including even incels, at some point in the future, I'm going to give a major talk about this. What is this phenomenon, why it's come about, and how to get out of it. Polyamory. Oh my Lord. Inside I almost have to laugh when I hear that word, and not because it's humorous, but because it's so stupid. People actually think this is a real word. You see, you give the stupidest, most inane idea a word, and that seems to legitimize it. This is one of these instances where what is an individual who believes in, what sounds like something very sophisticated, polyamory? It's someone who can't control the genitals, and thus wants the freedom, wants the ability, wants the permission to sleep around with anyone they wish, even if they're married, even if they're in a so-called relationship, as if that even has meaning, once an individual chooses a life of polyamory. This also, needless to say, is an ideology, if you can even call it that. It's an ideology of uncontrolledness that is contributing in its own small little way to destroy the family today. And I can go on. I'm going to stop here as far as all this. But indeed, we have seen that the family has been under attack, under attack, under attack. Since the 1960s, arguably since 1848, arguably a little touch even before then. Wherever atheism arises, the family will be under attack. We've seen this historically. Let me repeat that. Wherever atheism arises, we have seen that the family unit will be under attack. Why is this the case? It's because the family unit is the fortress. Indeed, in a Vedic civilization, in a spiritual civilization, as I've said, such a civilization will consist of 1,000,000 such fortresses of true spirituality against atheism. That's why whenever atheists come to power, what's the first thing they try to do? Destroy the family. This is why as spiritual people, our goal is to do the opposite. We will uphold the family. We will uphold the family. And I'm going to end by saying this, something that is very, very, very important. And I'm saying this especially to this audience of individuals who are here on Discord, many of whom I know are quite serious. You're here because, most of you at least, you sincerely want to increase your knowledge and practice and experience of Sanatana Dharma. The International Sanatana Dharma Society is a family-oriented movement. In other words, our goal, our vision, is that as the ISDS continues to grow, and it is growing by leaps and bounds, but as it continues to grow, we want the ISDS, in the same way that I explained, a Vedic civilization consists of 1,000,000 Vedic families. We want the ISDS also to consist of 1,000,000 Vedic families, of a network of such families. As we continue to grow our Vedic heartland here in Omaha, Nebraska, that's our goal for here as well. If you're single for right now, that's okay. That's fine. Again, there is indeed a place for individuals who are celibate, who are single, in Vedic culture. That's known as brahmachari, brahmacharini. That's perfectly fine. But the goal of all of our people in the ISDS should be to eventually become married. And again, the majority, not everyone. Some people will be celibate for life because that really does suit their nature. But the vast, 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 vast majority, 99%, should prepare themselves to eventually be in a healthy, good relationship to get married. For those individuals who are listening and you are already married, we want to help you in every and any way to strengthen your marriage, to strengthen your family such that, as I was saying before, you will be together forever. You will be together until the very end. So the ISDS itself is indeed a movement that wishes to recreate the Vedic family, exactly what I was speaking about when I was describing what the Vedic family looks like a short time ago. So this is the goal for all of our individuals, is that, or again, not all, but the vast majority, is that we want to help you to have healthy relationships. And right now, whether you are dating, whether you're engaged, whether you're already married, whether you are not dating anyone whatsoever, but you want to, now we're going to jump into questions and answers. And that being the case, I want to open up the floor. You can feel free to text in your questions. And actually, before anything, suddenly I see 100 questions here, it looks like. Before I tackle the questions that are actually on Discord, I have one question from someone here in our audience at our temple, and she has to leave in a few minutes. So very nice and loud, what is your question, please?
Yeah, so this is for married couples. We hear and see so much about marriages becoming stale after a certain number of years, whether it's like the man or the woman becoming lackadaisical, or the woman becomes naggy, or the man becomes an annoying slob, or things like that, and just kind of getting monotonous with the daily grind and carrying through things. Can you give advice specific to both men and women on things that each of them can do to avoid getting stuck in that trap and allowing the monotony of the daily grind to, make the marriage dull, or and from keeping the husband and wife from growing apart, and just keeping the marriage alive and happy and things like that?
Excellent question. That's a very good first question. Yes, let me answer that. First of all, as I often say, this is something that many couples deal with. That yes, after you've been together for some time, whatever it is, even 5 years in some cases, 10, 20 years, and yeah, it gets to the point where indeed one or both parties becomes kind of lackadaisical in how they are acting with their partner. Things don't seem to be quite as exciting like it was at first. Things don't seem to be quite as romantic, etc., etc. Well, interestingly, this is a problem that occurs with people in general. In other words, what happens is people get accustomed to things too easily, including even the important things in life. So when it comes to a relationship then leading to a marriage, well, in the beginning, of course, it tends to be a lot more exciting and very romantic, and the two individuals don't take each other for granted. But it's due to the element of time that after some time, yes, what occurs is exactly what you said. This is the problem, is that while some of that is slightly natural, let's say, due to the enervating nature of our world, in other words, things just naturally kind of go downward. That's true for marriage as well. This is why it is up to both individuals, now not just one, it must be both individuals in the relationship, that they must be aware at all times of their relationship and not take it for granted. So in other words, it's quite possible that a couple can be married for 50 years, and as they're celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary, they are as in love with each other as when they first got married. Indeed, I have seen such people. Indeed, this is personal. I've said this to only a few people, of course, but including yourself. I had an uncle and an aunt in New York, and they were married for 50 years. And the last time that I saw them, that I visited them, was, I don't know, maybe 7 years ago, something like that. And I even stayed in their home one night, actually, as I was visiting New York. And what was interesting is everyone saw this about them, but I saw it firsthand staying with them. My uncle was in a wheelchair, because he had severe diabetes, and at that point he had to be in a wheelchair. You could imagine, I think he was maybe at least 80 years old. His wife was in better health. But the way they looked at each other, the way they spoke to each other, the way they interacted, it's like they had been married for a year. They were in love with each other. They were each other's best friend. So indeed, someone who would say, oh no, it's just not possible after 50 years, oh nonsense. It is indeed possible, but it has to be done purposefully, consciously. That is, that when you are with your partner, you are to always be loving toward your partner, even if you've been together for 20 years. You have to be conscious and aware of the marriage and of your relationship and of the loving nature of your relationship. So this is what it's a matter of. Indeed, it's the same answer as one would give about many problems in this world. People eventually lack awareness. Well, we must not lose awareness. We must be awake at all times to what is the priority in life, what is of importance in life. And when it comes to a loving relationship, it is indeed crucial that you keep that love alive by any means necessary, that you are at the very least thinking about it, aware of it, conscious of the fact that who is this that I'm with? Oh yes, it may be 20 years later and my partner has gotten a little bit older and we already know each other's jokes and everything. And still, this is the woman, if you're a man, I'm speaking as a man, oh, this is the woman who I fell in love with when I was 20 years old and she was 18, let's say. And oh, she may be 20 years older now, 30 years older, but it's still her and I adore her. This is how we have to think. And in that way, you keep the love alive. So with that, let me look at some of the questions that are now here in the chat. I see a nice question here that I think I may have just answered actually. And it is Namaste Acharyaji. What small things can a husband do to his wife to make sure the relationship is strong and that she stays loyal and caring to him? Number one, that he remains loyal and caring to her. That's important. Women are wondrous, absolutely wondrous beings. The reason why men love women so much is because of the fact that women themselves are so loving. They are incarnations of love. They can be, under proper and natural circumstances. And when a woman sees that their man truly adores them, and no, not in a weak-willed sort of way, not, oh yes, love, I'll do anything for you, oh, I'm your servant, what you want. No, not in a simping sort of way, but in a strong way. Oh, the man is a man's man. He is strong, but at the same time, when it comes to his wife, he treats his wife like a queen. He treats his wife like a goddess. And he shows her every day that he truly loves her. When that is the case, that woman will have nothing but loyalty and love toward that man. That woman will truly love him, be loyal to him, trust him, care for him until the moment that he leaves this world. So indeed, this is why love is reciprocal. It can't be the case that, oh, the man wants the woman to be loyal to him, but he doesn't really reciprocate in any way. No, if the man reciprocates, then it's a competition. It will be an ongoing, wonderful, loving competition of reciprocation. The man will show love to the woman will then want to show love to the man, which will then make the man want to show love to the woman, etc., etc. And it goes back to what I was saying to the previous question. That's how you keep love alive. How do you keep love alive? That just like on the first date, or the first time you get married, or your engagement, or whatever, 20 years after you've been married, you still bring your wife flowers. And you surprise her with them. You go to the home without her there, and you arrange the flowers someplace nice where she'll find them and be surprised. And you will have a woman who will truly love you. The simple things like that often show a woman what is truly in your heart as a man. So I hope that answers that question. This is another nice question. Namaste, Sri Guru Maharaja. In today's distorted and superficial, quote, dating culture, unquote, and the fact that many young people are confused and surface level to some degree, how does one in practice go about even searching for and meeting sattvic potential partners, especially with the clear intent to date and to get into a serious and natural relationship? Very good. Well, the way that one does this is by being an honest and upfront person. So in other words, number one, You need to be someone who yourself, you are steeped in a sattvic Vedic lifestyle as the very foundation of your being. To the point where, before you even open your mouth, people see you. Everyone, men, women, friends, just in general, people see you and they understand this is someone serious. And by serious, I don't mean boring. I mean, this is someone who has something going on inside them. Something good, something of value. So number one, you have that foundation, but also number two, yeah, there's no avoiding dating today. How indeed do you find a partner today? You know, we have to be very realistic. It is 2024. We don't have parents who are going to arrange marriages for us. So indeed, a person needs to go out and find someone appropriate. Well, when indeed you do find someone who is indeed sattvic, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second, how you indeed do that. But when you do find someone like this, it is very important that from the very beginning, and I mean the first moment that the two of you know that you're dating, that you make it clear and honest and upfront with the individual who you are now dating, what your expectations are. And you do so not with arrogance, but you do so in a very straightforward sort of way, with confidence, not arrogance, but confidence. Whatever you need to say such that your potential partner will understand. You say, listen, I know, we all know what society is like today. It's trivial, it's meaningless, it's shallow. I want to live my life in the opposite way. And let me tell you, right up front, I'm not looking for a hookup with you. I'm not looking for anything else. My goal is to find someone who we're on the same page, we truly love each other, we have the same values and virtues, we want to get married, have children, and have a beautiful, beautiful life together. And you simply need to tell the person, this is what I'm looking for. Is this something that you're potentially looking for as well? So again, you need to be upfront with the individual. As far as how you find a sattvic individual, there are many, many, many times more sattvic individuals in the world than most of us understand. There are more good women in the world. There are more good men in the world. Again, for those people who just kind of give in to the culture and just throw their hands up in the air, where are all the good men? They're not here anymore. Where are all the good women? They're not. No, they're here. They're hiding from the degenerates. It's that simple. They are here. But unlike in the past, in the, again, 30s, 40s, 50s, when they could just be normal people and be happy-go-lucky and not worry about anything and just be out there in the world, where are they today? They're still there, but they're in hiding from the degenerates and from degenerate culture. So they have a low profile, but they are there and you can find them. You can find them. Go to sattvic places. Go to sattvic areas. If you have family, if you have brothers, sisters, they must have friends. If you're in school, if you're anywhere where human beings are, you will find individuals. They're a minority. Sattvic people are always a minority, but not a vast minority. They're not 1% of society, but they're a minority. You will find those individuals, but you have to go to sattvic places. You have to make yourself a walking advertising sign that you are sattvic. And interestingly, many people ask this question as in, how do I find? How do I find? How do I find? This is why I say, make yourself into a walking billboard for a sattvic lifestyle. Often they'll find you as well. And in the meantime, you be patient. You don't give up. You don't give in to the demonic pseudo mantras of today. We're all the good men. We're all the good women. You don't give up. They are there. But again, it's a little harder for them to reveal themselves because they just want to make sure that you're on their same level. So I hope that answers the question for you. This is another, yet again, I keep saying this, but I never say this to flatter people. I say this especially with Discord because we have good people with good questions. That's why they're on here, on our Discord server. Greetings and namaste, Sri Acharya. Please accept my many thanks for piercing the darkness of my ignorance. That is Sriman Narayana, who has done that for you. What is the best way to assuage bitterness, doubt, or resentment in an existing marriage after one party turns drastically from a rather tamasic lifestyle toward one of Dharma Vaishnavism, and their partner then feels as though they are left out to dry, or rather that the terms of the marriage have been unfairly altered many years into the union due to the change of trajectory of that other individual. Do you have any practical advice? Jaya Shri Guru. All right, very good. I believe I understand the question. So in other words, when you have two parties who are together in marriage, and they, let's say, if I understand this, they both at one time had a somewhat tamasic lifestyle, but one of them turns to Dharma, becomes a Vaishnava, changes their life completely for the better, but then the other one has not, and then there's kind of a bitterness that is there. I believe that's the nature of the question. That does happen, unfortunately. It happens a minority of the time, usually in a marriage, when one party sees the other party improving in some way, and especially spiritually, and they become a better person, and they maybe give up addictions, and they become more loving, etc., more disciplined. Usually, the first party is very happy about that. That's usually the case. But this does happen once in a while. And why does it happen? A lot of reasons. Interestingly, one of the foundations of which often is a sense of threat, a sense that, now that we're no longer sharing a tamasic lifestyle, eventually my partner who is now sattvic, may want to leave me, may abandon me. This is not something that's good. And it arises a lot out of fear due to this reason. But in any case, let me say that, again, we believe that a marriage should remain together forever. And I should also have this caveat, except for extreme cases. Needless to say, if one of the parties is extremely abusive or something like that, then no, that's not something that's healthy. But we're talking about, typical people. It is important that you try your best to salvage this marriage, to not let it fall apart. And the best way is to do several things. A, be as patient as you can with the partner who has remained tamasic. Be as patient as you can. Never rub it in their face. Never be on some sort of high horse of, I'm holier than thou now. No, never do anything to make the person feel bad about the fact that you have yourself progressed spiritually while maybe they haven't. That will alleviate a lot of the fear and resentment and jealousy, even a little bit of envy that might be there. The other thing is, especially at this time, shower your partner with love. Because again, why is it that they may feel bitterness and resentment? Well, they're afraid that they're going to lose you. Show them that they're not. And especially if you know that there is goodness that is there within them. You married this person for a reason. You must have seen some goodness. There was something within the person who attracted you. And that, God willing, is still there within them. That being the case, focus on that and appeal to that aspect of them. Don't argue with them. Don't try to preach to them. Be a good example now that you have become spiritual. And that's the best way that you will, in a very non-threatening way, help them to grow spiritually. So don't preach, teach, and teach by your example. But also, like I was saying a moment ago, shower them with love. If anything, be more loving toward them. If anything, like I was saying with a previous answer to a previous question, surprise them with flowers. It seems silly, but do little things like this. Surprise them with a date night. Just do any loving thing that you can, such that not only do you remember what first attracted you within that person, but vice versa as well. And more, now that you are spiritual and your partner, little by little, by doing all these things, little by little will feel less threatened. The two of you in time, again, God willing, it's not guaranteed, but God willing, you will begin to see each other very lovingly in a new light. Almost as if you're starting all over again, but again, in a loving relationship. So I hope that helps in answering the question. I really hope that helps. Because again, it's a sad situation, and I've known several people who have gone through similar things, where one partner becomes very spiritual, the other isn't, and it sometimes causes contention. So I pray for you, and I hope that your family and your marriage will end up being sweet again. Good. This is a very interesting question. I've never had this question before. It's quite good. And it is Namaste Shri Acharyaji. In the event of a marriage between two dharmis being officiated by a non-Vedic priest due to circumstances, can that said marriage be re-officiated by a Vedic guru such as yourself at a later date when circumstances allow? Would a ceremony of renewing vows be appropriate for such a re-officiation? Thank you for giving this talk and answering our questions. Jaya Shriman Narayana. Very nice question. And let me say the answer is absolutely yes. People do indeed, in the Kali Yuga in 2024, we know that we find ourselves in all sorts of strange situations. Sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we may be the only dharmi in our community who we know of, or maybe ourselves and our partner, or it may be a very small community. There are all sorts of things that happen without giving away their identities in any way whatsoever. But I've been Skyping with people pretty much every day now, with students, disciples of mine, literally all over the world. And it's interesting how recently I've spoken to several of them who they live in nations where they are the only dharmi they know. So indeed, when that is the case and you don't have a lot of association, or maybe they know one other dharmi or something like that, when that is the situation, you do what you can given life circumstances. So indeed, let's say you find someone who you're in love with, you want to get married, you're a dharmi, she's a dharmi, you want to get married, and there's no Vedic temple anywhere, there's no one who can officiate. Well then, of course, it's perfectly fine to then get married in whatever the predominant religion of that nation, of that area. What can you do? You can't not get married and wait maybe years to, leave the country, go somewhere else. You do what you have to. And as long as the marriage ceremony itself is a religious one, is a spiritual one, invested with as much spirituality as can be invested into it, and it's done in an ethical way, and you take vows that are common sense, spiritual vows to each other, then you're married. You're married. But at the same time, of course, believe me, I understand the desire to eventually then have an official Vedic ceremony. And as you were saying here, either a complete ceremony altogether, or how do you state it, a re-officiation. Yes, that is something that is perfectly good to do as well. And indeed, if somehow you can make it to Omaha, I would be happy to do that for you. Or if you find some other Vedic priest who can do that, then that is something that you can do. Very good. Thank you for that question. So this is looks like a multi-part question, and very good. Namaste Acharyaji, may I offer my humble obeisances unto you, only if I may do the same unto you. And again, it's a three-part question. Number one, would you please comment on the Kamasutra as it applies to Vedic couples when engaging in healthy sexuality? Good, I'm glad you had that qualifier there. Some commentary and instruction within that sutra gives me pause or confuses me. Very good. Well, let me say, and I've said this before, and it sometimes surprises people, if you apply logic to the situation, it shouldn't in any way. The Kama Sutra is considered to be a sacred text. It was written by Vatsyayana, who is a rishi. And again, people don't know what the Kama Sutra even is these days. They think it's something titillating or something where it's pornographic, or it just has to do with weird sexual practices. No, that's not what it is actually. It's a sutra, part of the sutra literature, just like the Yoga Sutras, just like the Brahma Sutras, just like the Narada Bhakti Sutras, etc. It is a sutra. It was written by Vatsyayana. Vatsyayana was an individual who wrote other books as well of Vedic commentary. He himself, and this shocks people when I tell them this. Again, it's amazing how people don't know these things. When Vatsyayana wrote the Kama Sutra, he was celibate. He was a brahmachari. He was a complete celibate. So it's not the idea that, oh, he himself was some perverse person. No, on the contrary. He was a rishi. He was a very advanced sage, actually, when he wrote this. Now, why did he write this? I'm going to give you a little bit of background into this. Dharma, Kama, Artha, Moksha. These are the 4 Purusharthas. These are the 4 human aims according to Vedic culture. Now, Dharma, Kama, Artha, Moksha. Kama is one of these. Now, what is meant by Kama? Kama is one of these words that, like with several Sanskrit words, with actually most of them, has a multiplicity of meanings. Does it mean lust? Oh, sure, it means lust. But it also means desire in the most general of senses. Indeed, if one has desire to know Krishna, that is often described in some of the literature as Kama. So Kama is not necessarily something evil or bad. It simply means desire. If you desire, oh, you've been away from home and you have not seen your children in some time, you have Kama, you have desire to see your children. So again, it's a general term. It doesn't just mean lust. Though lust is certainly one of the more prevalent translations and meanings of the term Kama. Now, Kama also means pleasure, and you said it correctly, as far as engaging in healthy sexuality, a Vedic couple engaging in healthy sexuality. That means that they're married, that means that they are simply enjoying each other sexually. You know, Vedic culture is a culture where we believe strongly in ethics, virtues, morality, but we are also not a prudish culture. We're not 17th century New England Puritans looking for witches under every corner and looking to persecute people. No, we have a very healthy understanding of everything from the nature of divine ontology all the way down to, yes, what does it even mean to have sexual pleasure in this world? Everything in a Vedic culture is transcendentalized. So with this understanding, Vatsyayana decided to write a sutra specifically on this one Purushartha, of this one aim of human beings known as Kama. As far as all the others, the others have been written about. There are Dharma Shastras, Dharma Sutras. There is an Artha Shastra, speaking about Artha. And of course, as far as liberation, that's the majority of the Vedic scriptures. So this is what Vatsyayana wrote about. So it is indeed considered to be a completely authentic and spiritual work. Now, that being the case, you say here that, oh, some of it confuses you. I'm guessing that the reason why is because those parts that confuse you are not for you. So in other words, Vatsyayana makes it very clear in the Kama Sutra itself that what he speaks about applies to different kinds of individuals. And often one aspect of what he talks about will apply only to one sort of human and not another and not another. Indeed, you may remember some time ago in a Q&A, I said the same thing about the Dharma Shastras, and that may have surprised people. That in the Dharma Shastras, not each and every proscription and prescription applies to all humans equally. Indeed, any of the Dharma Shastras, of which there are many, make that very clear. There are rules and regulations for Brahmanas, and for Kshatriyas, and for Vaishyas, and for different stages in life. Indeed, everyone laughed, as they should have, when I even said in the Manava Dharma Shastra, it even says, you must not eat meat, you must not eat meat, fish, or eggs, must not eat meat, fish, or eggs. Unless you are a Bengali, then it's okay to have fish. So indeed, all of these rules and regulations don't apply to everyone equally. The same thing with the Kama Sutras. But again, the Kama Sutras is something which, if you choose to practice it, you see, it's not necessary. But if a married couple in a healthy relationship chooses to look at the Kama Sutras, apply some of it to their marriage, they should apply that which applies to them very specifically and very carefully so. So that's how I would explain this. But you asked 2 more things here, so let me look at these. Number 2, you've spoken recently about the importance of a couple sharing a religion before committing to marriage. For dharmis, does this qualification extend to their chosen path, i.e. a Shakta marrying a Vaishnava? The closer the primary individual is to absolute truth, then of less importance this is. And now let me explain, in case that's confusing, what I mean by this. when it comes to two religions that are vastly different, so for example, anything dharmic, and specifically, let's say Sanatana Dharma, versus someone following an Abrahamic religion, absolutely they should not get married. Absolutely, it's pretty much guaranteed that here you have one individual who is following Dharma. Here you have another individual whose very ideological foundations, i.e. Abrahamism, is opposed to Dharma. If both individuals take their religions seriously, that is a marriage that is guaranteed to end in doom. But now let's go a little bit deeper. Well, what about an individual who is following Sanatana Dharma versus an individual who is following, let's say, a somewhat more removed aspect of Dharma? Let's say they're Buddhist, let's say they're following Asatru, let's say they're a Taoist, something like that. Well, that's better. That's better than marrying an Abrahamist, but there will still be some problems that are there, because while both are following Dharma, their understandings of Dharma will not necessarily always be on the same page. So for example, just to give one of many examples, an individual who is a serious modern-day Buddhist, Mahayana, Vajrayana, Theravada, any sort of more modern-day Buddhist, their concept of Dharma is going to be something rather different than the Vedic concept of Dharma. Generally, they'll be the same. Generally, oh yes, natural law, yes, laws that are inherent within the very structure of the universe, but then the goals will be different. The Sanatana Dharmi will want to know Sriman Narayana and to be in Vaikuntha to serve him eternally. The Buddhist will want extinction. So they're both following Dharma, generally speaking, but there will still be some major theological differences. Now, let's get to two individuals who indeed are following Sanatana Dharma, but as you say here, one is a Shakta, one is a Vaishnava. That's a lot better than the previous two categories I was just speaking of. That is certainly much better. To the point where this is the advice that I would give, that as long as there is deep understanding that they both have the same concept of Dharma, which they should, they both accept the validity, not just validity, but the infallibility of the Vedic scriptures, etc., all of the basic premises of what it means to be a Dharmi, then it is quite possible that they can have a wonderful, good, loving relationship and stay together forever. Now, there will be differences, again, if both of them are extremely religious. What will be the main differences? And again, we're talking about 2024. We're not talking about 3,000 years ago, where a person could be a Shakta as their path, but they would still understand that Sriman Narayana is the source of Shakti Devi, is the source of the Great Mother. Not today. Today, sadly, that's changed, and a Shakta, almost by definition, is one who accepts that the Absolute is the Divine Goddess, the Divine Mother, etc., versus a Vaishnava who believes that Sriman Narayana is the Supreme Absolute. Well, there will be a little bit of contention there, but again, still much better than the previous two categories, to the point where, it would not surprise me in any way to see, again, this sort of couple, and they are together married for 50 years, and without contention. What is the best, of course, is indeed if there can be two Vaishnavas who are getting married. Then there'll be zero contention, and that's guaranteed, at least as far as religion and spirituality. So, long answer, but I hope that answers the question in a logical sequence, in a logical sort of way. And then you have one more question here. How much emphasis should be put on marrying within one's ethnicity? For European Dharmis, looking for European Dharmis, our options seem quite limited unless our partner converts. Very good. Let me answer this in a multi-part sort of way, actually. First, you ask how much emphasis should be put on marrying within one's ethnicity. Traditionally speaking, there was always tremendous emphasis on such a thing. And, there are two different things we're talking about. There's race and there's ethnicity. You asked about ethnicity, and truthfully, I'm going to speak about both in a moment. But first, talking about ethnicity. So Italians marrying Italians, French people marrying French people, Germans marrying Germans, etc. Well, traditionally, of course, there always has been somewhat of an emphasis on marrying within your ethnicity. Indeed, Gujaratis tend to marry Gujaratis, Tamils marry Tamils, etc. And of course, we know that under globalism, everything has changed, where nothing has meaning. I'm talking about traditional society, and not even going back 5,000 years, going back a few hundred years. That tended to be the case. Irish people married Irish people, etc., etc., etc. And this is indeed something in which, if it can be done, that is, if you can find a perfect partner who is of your same ethnicity, that's the ideal, that is nice. But truthfully, now looking at this in a somewhat greater category, if you don't want to reduce ethnicity down to that small of a category, literally, Italians marrying Italians, if it's a matter of Europeans marrying Europeans, but you're of different ethnicities. A Russian marries a German marries an Italian marries an Irish person, a Swedish person marries a French person, etc. Absolutely nothing wrong with that either. Absolutely nothing wrong with that either. Indeed, what we see is that very often happens today, a little bit less in Europe. In America, that's the norm. That's the norm. So absolutely nothing wrong with Europeans marrying other Europeans. Now, I'm going to state this because people have asked me this. Sanatana Dharma teaches that if it can be done, an individual should try to marry within their own race. Should try to marry within their own race. And there are some circumstances where, yes, it's just not possible for one reason or another. It's not that such people are to be persecuted. It's not that they're, evil people. Nothing like that. It has to go with, again, using logic, what I was saying even a short time ago about religions. Individuals should attempt to marry other individuals who are as close to their essential natures as possible. It's that simple. Whether it's religion, whether it's race, whether it's ethnicity, how about this? Whether it's politics. Will it really work having a MAGA person marrying an Antifa person? You see? Now this makes sense, right? Does it not make sense? You want to have a marriage that's going to last for 50 years. If you're a MAGA, marry a MAGA person. If you're an Antifa communist, marry an Antifa communist. Of course, that happens much more rarely because communists don't get married. They don't believe in it. And if they do, it's a polyamorous marriage. But you get the idea. Whatever is the category, yes, why not try to marry someone who is as close to yourself as possible? Yes, let me comment on this very last thing that you say here. Our options seem quite limited unless our partner converts. You can convert your partner. Again, as I've said before, not by preaching to them, not by making them feel bad, but it's interesting how today many individuals, this comes to the crux of an important issue. Many individuals will give up on looking for a partner, especially if they're a follower of Sanatana Dharma, because they often have this idea that, how am I going to find someone who is a follower of Sanatana Dharma and then marry that person? And if that is how you are couching the question, then, yes, it will be difficult. Here I am. Let's say, I would like to find someone in my ethnicity. I'm Irish. How am I going to find, let's say I'm an Irish guy, how am I going to find a nice Irish girl who also is a Vaishnava? That's going to be tough. But this is the thing. Why not just focus on finding a nice Irish girl? Someone who is goodness incarnate, someone who is virtuous, someone who wants to do the right thing, someone who is intelligent, who is, someone who, again, they want to have a beautiful life. See, this is what it comes down to. Find someone who truly wants to have a beautiful, meaningful, real life. And as the two of you get closer and closer, teach this wonderful Irish girl Sanatana Dharma. And with the hopes that, in time, she will become a follower of Sanatana Dharma. So this is what I'm saying, that if you cannot find someone who is a follower of Sanatana Dharma already, which most likely you won't, help them to become a follower of Sanatana Dharma. And then you will have a wonderful wife who is on the same page with you in every way. So do not be afraid to do this. So, all right. I answered all three of your questions, and hopefully to your satisfaction. Those were all very good questions. Yes, let me answer this. Namaste Acharya. How to build an emotional connection with a man who is very emotionally unintelligent. It could be a deal breaker actually due to non-compatibility on the emotional level. Let me agree with you actually, especially with what you said toward the end. And it's very sad, but yes, if you tend to be someone who is very emotional, and I hope by emotional, of course, you mean in a positive way, in a good way. There's nothing bad about emotions. We don't want uncontrolled emotions. We don't want to just cry at the drop of a hat or get very angry, but to express positive emotions, emotions of love and great bliss, being in the company of that person we love, and things like that. We watch a very sad movie and tears come to our eyes. No, those are all nice and very good emotions to have. And if you find that you're that sort of person and you need emotional connection with the other person, which is quite natural. Let me say, in fact, before I go on, let me talk about this for one moment. And this in itself might actually answer your question. Part of a healthy relationship is that indeed that sort of healthy romantic emotion, one partner toward the other and vice versa, must be there. That's love. If that is not love, then what is the definition of love? It can't be that one person in all their heart truly loves the other and the other one is just stone cold. That's not love. Love necessarily is reciprocal. Love between two individuals by definition necessarily is reciprocal. That you express this deep emotional love toward the other and then they reciprocate that toward you. And it's something that is truly beautiful to see this. Indeed, this is how we love God. This is how we love God. It's reciprocal loving relationship, that we express our devotion to God and God loves us in return, and it just goes on and on like this and feeds each other in a beautiful way. And when you find an individual who you yourself have this healthy expression of indeed emotional love, but the other person doesn't, sadly that is indeed something that might be a deal breaker. And again, I'm very sorry to say this, but I'm being honest. Better that you know this now rather than discover this in 10 years when you've been with the person and you feel radically unfulfilled within, in your heart. The person may be wonderful in many other ways, and it's not only with emotions. There are many aspects of a human being where if they're missing that, it's a deal breaker. If a person is lacking compassion and empathy, they just couldn't care less if they see a person die in front of them, that's a deal breaker. You stay away from that person. And there are many, many things like this. But this is one of them. I would say, first of all, again, because I'm someone who truly believes that you try at least to make something work out. Don't give up on the person immediately. If you haven't already, speak to them about this in a very honest, upfront sort of way. If you see that after repeated tries, they refuse to speak to you about this, that itself gives you your answer. You can't be with that person. But if they at least will be open to the idea of, talking to you. Why are they like this? Did they have some terrible traumatic experience early on with someone, expressing love in some way where they become kind of cold emotionally? Speak with them, in a, again, upfront, honest sort of way, and see if you can have them begin to reveal their inner self a little bit and why they're like this. And that being the case, there's hope that they can change. There is hope that they can change. So this is what I would say. Don't give up hope just yet. Rather, do your best you don't give up on the person immediately. Speak with them. Try to get them to open themselves up as much as possible. And hopefully with the idea that they will begin to experience these emotions. The last thing I'm going to say is this. Also make sure that they are surrounded, not 24/7, but to some good degree, with things that should make them positively emotional. In other words, you always express, if you love this person, express that to the person. Tell them all the time. Do things so that they know that they're loved and their emotions will be stirred. And again, if you see that even after all that effort, you're not stirring any emotions in them, it's up to you, ultimately, of course. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but you may want to consider that this is maybe not the relationship for you. I hope that answers your question, and I hope that things go well. I truly hope that things go well. I see these are two very good questions. And you say, Namaste Shri Acharyaji, I wish to ask two questions. This is the first one, what is the proper age for marriage? What age should be considered too young or too old? Very good. Let me answer this question first, and then I'll go on to your second question. Now, again, there is necessary nuance that has to be here, and due to many different reasons. As I was saying, even with these sutra literatures, the Shastra literatures, meaning like the Dharma Shastra, we have seen that when it comes to the particularities of certain times, dates, ages, place, circumstance, all of these various things, that sometimes there are nuances that are there. So let me say that in 2024, which is what we're dealing with, an individual, needless to say, for legal reasons, must be legally capable of being married and being in a relationship. That's a given. And that is as it should be. We have to respect the reasonable laws of the land. So in America, generally, the age of consent is 18. That's for good reason. That's not just some crazy, evil, arbitrary rule. No, the reason why that's the case is to make sure that younger people are not abused, not taken advantage of by sexual predators. So that being the case, it's very important to follow the laws. And generally speaking, I would say that in 2024 and beyond, this should be the general standard as well in any Vedic culture. So we know that in all sorts of cultures, not just Vedic, people who think this is just a let's say, Hindu thing, they're wrong. This was the case during the pioneer era. This was the case in Europe, that sometimes people would marry very young. Oh, they could be 13, 14 years old and they got married. So this may have been the norm at one time, and that for so many sociological reasons that we don't need to go into. But it's not the norm anymore, and truthfully neither should it be. People indeed should be of adult age when they decide to get married. So let's say, generally speaking, they should be 18 or above, or again, whatever is the law in the specific nation that we're speaking of. As far as how old they should not, interestingly, be too old. You hear of people who, they're 69 and 75 and they get married. There's nothing wrong with this. You see, I have to make this clear. It's not that that's a sin or evil or something wrong with it. It's just unnecessary, because at that stage, in a perfect Vedic society, when you've reached the point where you are truly a senior citizen, you're not starting a family. Biologically, you're not starting a family. If, let's say, the woman is 69, 68 years old and the man is 75, 79, you're not starting a family. You're not going to have children. You're not starting our life off, come on, dear, let's get our first apartment together. No, there's no reason after a certain age to get married. At that stage in a Vedic society, individuals of that age should be focusing fully on spirituality. They should be retired. And as I've said before, retirement in a Vedic society doesn't mean you go to a nursing home, doesn't mean you're playing shuffleboard. No, it means that now you're focusing 100% on spirituality. You've had your children, they've grown up, they have their children, they have their households. Your responsibilities should be over at this point, other than to practice spirituality. So as far as the higher age limit, I'm not going to give an exact age, but certainly after a certain while, there's no purpose in getting married. Once you're past a certain age. So now let me answer the second question that you have here. What is the preferable age gap between the couples according to the Vedas? Thank you, Jaya Shri Guru. Very good. I'm very glad you asked this, and I'm going to answer this definitively and indeed according to the Vedas and according to Vedic tradition. Two separate but intertwined things, actually. First of all, the Vedas make this quite clear, as did Prabhupada, as did other gurus, actually. The norm is that several things, actually. First of all, let me talk about this somewhat in depth. It should never be the case that the woman is older than the man. The scriptures make this quite clear, actually. And again, if it happens, it's not a sin, it's not something horrific, it just leads to a weird and very unhealthy dynamic in which now the man, who should be a man, who should be the leader of the family, is now a boy in comparison to his wife. and it leads to a very unhealthy dynamic that's there. So the scriptures make this clear. The woman should never be older than the man. Rather, interestingly, the scriptures also say it is good for the man to be older than the woman. How old? Generally speaking, Prabhupada said this, again, and it says this in several of the scriptures, roughly 10 years. That's the average. But it can be more than that, actually. Indeed, there have been marriages in which the man is considerably older. And when I say considerably, I mean 20 years, 30 years. That's a little bit more rare, but that's considered to be acceptable as well. And again, all within the context of what I was speaking about before. Legality and both individuals being mature, etc. But always, it is the case that the man should be a little bit older than the woman, never vice versa. So this is something that is extremely important. And again, that for also many very practical reasons that we can go into, most of which I think are quite intuitive and common sense. It's good for the man to be older because the younger woman will respect the man more. The man will be in the proper role where he will have the confidence to lead the household. This is interesting. This is something that people think is only a modern saying, but actually in many ways it's quite true. Not in every way, but in many ways women do mature quicker than men. That is the case. And when it comes to the idea of having a household specifically, very specifically, what we've seen is that, you can even see this in modern times, but this has always been the case. It tends to be young men especially who they can be 25, 30 years old. They're not quite ready to settle down. This is like a meme that we see all throughout culture, and it's the case. Whereas women, they can be younger, and again, in the ideal circumstances, again, not a degenerate society like we have today, they can be 18 years old, they're ready for marriage, they're ready to settle down, they're ready to have children, they're ready to be in a loving relationship and to have a husband. And again, not speaking so much about society as it is now, but in an ideal society, we've seen historically that that's the case. So that being the case, it tends to take men a little bit longer before they're ready to get married. And this is generally speaking. You'll have some men who they're ready at 18. They're ready, indeed, they're 14 and they're fantasizing about getting married and having children. And, what kind of house are we going to have? No, you'll meet guys who are like that. But, no, most men will take a little bit longer to be ready for such a thing than women. So I hope that answers. So again, anyone who is out there not healthy, if you are a man, not healthy to have a woman who is older than you. Indeed, what's evidence of this? Look at the present day president of France. A few nice comments here. There are, I believe, more questions, but a few nice comments. Raja Rama says, thank you for the wonderful answer, Acharyaji. Absolutely my pleasure. Another person says, thank you, Acharyaji. Third person says, Acharyaji, you have perfectly understood and answered my question. You have so hit the mark at the heart of my inquiry. Thank you. Another very nice comment. Namaste, everyone. Namaste, Shri Acharyaji. My respectful obeisances unto you, and likewise. Very nice. Here's another nice comment on something that I answered. Thank you dearly for answering my questions, Acharyaji. I will proceed with caution with the Kamasutra. It's good to know dharmic couples aren't doomed if they follow different paths, and to continue trying my best to find or attract a partner sharing as many traits as possible, including race, and leading them to Sanatana Dharma by example. Very nice. Very good indeed. Yes, never give up. This is what is interesting. People say this, and it actually is true. I've seen this many times. That the best way very often, if you're looking for a partner, you're having difficulty, the best way to then find a partner is to actually truly be detached. In other words, when I say detached, I don't mean stop looking. I don't mean stop caring. No, keep looking. But again, internally in a detached sort of way. In other words, you're patient and you never give up. So you may have one prospect. It doesn't work out. Another prospect. It gets to the point where it's 50 prospects. Hopefully not that many, but I'm going to the extreme. You never give up. And indeed, interestingly, very often because of the very fact that you are detached, a partner will find you. So that's why you never ever give up. And very often when that partner finally finds you, it's the person that you have been yearning for all of your adult life. So never give up. Someone here says, amazing answer on emotional connection, Acharya-ji. Thank you deeply. My pleasure. Someone else, thank you very much for your wonderful and in-depth answer, Jaya Shri Guru. Absolutely my pleasure. Very nice, very good. Here's a very good question. And you say, Namaste Acharya-ji, I am honored to finally be in contact with you directly. Well, very nice, wonderful. I'm very happy that you're here. And I hope that you're enjoying our wonderful, beautiful community here on this Discord forum. Please continue to be as involved as possible. And you ask, would you please outline the blueprint for dating in a dharmic context? Example, activities to do besides sadhana, duration of dating before we take things to the next level, how to make your dating intentions clear. All right, very nice, excellent, very, very, very practical question, so I will absolutely answer this. As far as a blueprint for dating, again, as I've said, people understand at this point, I would hope, that we practice Sanatana Dharma as authentically as possible. We follow in accordance with the scriptures, so as authentically as is possible on the one hand. On the other hand, no offense to the Amish. I love the Amish actually, but I just have to say this kind of jokingly. At the same time, we're not like the Amish. We're not people living in the past. You see, for us, Sanatana Dharma has nothing to do with the past. It has to do with taking those eternal teachings of Sanatana Dharma and indeed applying them today with fidelity. But to today with fidelity, what does that mean? That while on the one hand we are practicing Sanatana Dharma as authentically as possible, we also acknowledge who and where and what we are. We acknowledge that, oh yes, it's the Kali Yuga. Yes, we know the problems of today. We also know what the culture is like, etc., etc. So do we acquiesce, let's say, to, the legitimate parts of the culture a little bit? Of course we do. Of course we do. That's why I've said to people, you don't have to listen to bhajans 24 hours a day, and that's the only music you can ever listen to. You can listen to some contemporary music as long as it's sattvic. Does it mean that you can never watch a movie in your life? No, of course you can watch movies. Indeed, here at the temple, once in a while we'll have a movie night, but what do we see? Sattvic movies that have a nice dharmic theme to them. We'll watch Lord of the Rings, we'll watch something with a lesson to it, etc. One other thing is clothing. I am dressed in this specific sort of way, and sometimes I'll give an interview. So for example, I appeared on Alex Jones, he interviewed me, I've had many interviews where I'll dress like a normal Westerner. Why? I am a Westerner. I am a Westerner. I am not Indian, I'm not Chinese, I'm not Japanese, I'm not going to pretend I'm something else. I am a Westerner. So when I'm being interviewed for something very serious, I dress in a Western sort of way. When I go to the supermarket, I dress in a normative sort of way. Well, in the same way, while we want to follow the Vedic proscriptions and prescriptions as far as relationship to the T, at the same time, we have to somewhat acquiesce to the nicer things of our present culture. So now, to answer your question, when it comes to dating, essentially, an individual can do all of these sattvic things that individuals do, in fact, do on dates. Again, the sattvic things. So, taking the person you're dating to a bar? No. We feel like getting some drinks. Hey, dear, you feel like getting some drinks at a bar? No, that doesn't exist for us. Rather, do you want to go to a nice restaurant? Perfectly fine. Make sure, absolutely, you order something vegetarian. You order something that is wonderful, that is sattvic in every way, but you can go to a restaurant. As I said a moment ago, you want to take the person on a date to a movie. Fine. Find a wonderful movie, a good movie, something that is sattvic and moving and leaves you feeling elevated and just very happy afterwards. Something with a good message, and on and on. So in this way, there is, again, nothing wrong with doing many of the normative things that people do on dates, but make sure that is completely sattvic in every way. You want to go to a concert? Fine. Don't go to a death metal concert. Don't go to a black metal concert. Don't go to a gangster rap concert. Go to a concert where it's uplifting, just something nice, something innocent like folk music, a little bluegrass music, something where it's some sort of ethnic, traditional sort of music. Go to a classical concert, for God's sake. You want to impress your date? Take them to hear Wagner. Take them to hear, again, something classical. Take them to the opera. Take them to a Giuseppe Verdi opera. You're going to impress your date because they're not going to find anyone else for the most part who will do something like that with them. I envision, just imagine you're like 25 years old and you find a nice girl who's like 19 or something like that. And she's a very nice person, but typical of the culture, America and Europe and everything. And she knows that you're going on a date that night, and she says, "Oh, yeah, where are we going? Where are you taking me?" We're going to see La Traviata. We're going to an opera. You are going to impress her to the point where she's not going to let you go. So I'm being slightly humorous about this, but we should. We're talking about love. Talking about relationships, we're talking about loving relationships, about dating, about marriage, etc. And this is what you want to do, is indeed, you can be proud of your culture. It's not that, I'm here in Boise, Idaho, and I want to take my date to a concert. Where is their sitar concert going on? Because I'm Vedic. Oh, good luck. You'll find something. I'm sure they have sitar concerts once in a blue moon in Boise, Idaho. But no, just go to a regular concert, but make sure it's nice music, good music, something uplifting, even spiritual. And it doesn't have to be just kirtan, Go to a Bach concert or concerto, and you will be uplifted. And take your date to something like that. So I hope that answers the question. You can do all the normative things that people do on dates, but again, have it be sattvic. One last thing I need to say, because you say this here, things that you can do, etc., before we take things to the next level. I have to comment on that. The next level, if you've been together for quite some time and you truly love each other and you're ready, the next level is you ask for her hand in marriage. That's the next level. The next level since the 60s is, when can we have sex? Third date? That doesn't exist. The next level is you ask for her hand. Or if it is a woman, the next level is, you start giving lots of hints to the guy. You're ready for him to get down on one knee. That's the next level. Answer this. And it is Namaste Acharyaji. I offer my respectful obeisances, and again, likewise, unto you. What constitutes marriage in the Kali Yuga, for example, is a serious but informal vow made without witnesses or an officiator, as binding as a formal vow. Does common law marriage have any validity? If not, how does one persuade a partner of the merit of a formal marriage ceremony if they are jaded against it due to rampant divorce in their family? Thank you. Excellent series of questions, actually. First of all, you ask, is a serious but informal vow as binding? Let me say the important thing is the vow. So several things to be said about this. And again, there are subtleties within subtleties. What is the ideal? Of course, the ideal is to have a formal wedding where it is a religious wedding. And indeed, Vedically speaking, you have a ceremony with a priest officiating, and you have the murtis who are there, and you say a Vedic vow in such a way that all of the important things are covered and more. You're making this vow before God and before the gods. That is the ideal. But of everything, and God and the gods are the witnesses if there's no one else. If there are other people present, humans, that's good as well. The important thing is the vow. So even if it's somewhat informal, but informal meaning not that you don't take it seriously. You must take it seriously, and the vow must be a good one. But if by informal you mean, there isn't necessarily a priest officiating, etc., that is something that also can be taken quite seriously. The important thing is the vow, and that both individuals truly mean what is said. And of course, that generally speaking, the vow must be a good vow, that you are vowing your love and fidelity to each other. And of course, there's different kind of wording. Indeed, even Vedically, there isn't just one form of vow that a person takes Vedically. There are different traditions, there are different things in various scriptures. Indeed, even the idea of creating one's own vows, as long as they are done in the context of the Vedic spirit and Vedic scriptures, that also is acceptable, actually. The important thing is, what is the nature of the vows? That again, it's something that is traditionally understood as the two individuals going from being individuals to now being bound together. That it is a vow in which you are vowing to each other fidelity, that you will have a marriage in virtue, etc., and that both of you truly mean it. So that being the case, God is the witness. God is the witness, even if there aren't human witnesses that are there. All right, so that being said, let me answer the rest of your questions here. Does common law marriage have any validity? And then you say, if not, how does one persuade a partner of the merit of a formal marriage ceremony if they are jaded, etc., against it due to rampant divorce? Common law marriage without a vow does not have validity. Again, it's the vow that's of importance. And again, there is flexibility. A priest does not have to be there. It doesn't have to be that it's done in a Vedic temple. Indeed, it can be done in your home and just the two partners are the only people there. That's all right. Again, that's not ideal, but that's all right. As long as there is a serious vow that has been thought about, that has been, if not written down, then at least formulated in some way, that the two people say that vow to each other, that they mean it, and that, again, the formula of the vow itself is something akin to something that would traditionally be said, showing fidelity and virtue in the marriage. So even with a common law marriage, there should be a vow at some point, in whatever context. To answer this last part, how does one persuade a partner of the merit of a formal marriage ceremony if they are jaded against it due to rampant divorce in their family? That's difficult, but let me give you the answer. People can become jaded due to many traumatic experiences that they've had. Not just, that there was rampant divorce in their family. There could have been rampant many things in their family. Rampant abuse, rampant addictions, rampant this, rampant that. And, today, again, with everything that I was speaking about earlier at this point, well over an hour ago, all the problems that we have today contributing to the destruction of family, the destruction of marriage, we know that this is something that is rampant generally in society. So many people are traumatized because they grew up in terrible families because of all the things that we spoke about. Families have been under assault purposefully since the 60s. Especially, really a little bit before then, but especially since the 60s. That being the case, we have many people who are traumatized by many things. What needs to be done is this individual, the partner who is indeed traumatized in this way, has to be healed. And that by you showing your partner such love that the person knows that they can finally relax and they can feel healed in your presence and in your company, that they're safe, that's all right. And despite the fact that he may have experienced so many divorces in his family, and God knows, you don't go into detail, I can only imagine terrible divorces with fighting and who knows what, that may have been the case. But by your loving and by your example, you will show him in time that that's not marriage, but that what you are presenting to him as his potential future will be true marriage, and what in his heart he's been truly looking for all his life. So I will give you the answer that I've given to many individuals thus far. Be patient. Try to understand where he's coming from and how, yes, things like this that you experience in family can be very traumatizing, but show him that it's all right. Be loving and patient toward him to the point where he feels that he can finally relax within his heart. And that being the case, as far as persuading him about marriage, take much of what we spoke about today, create little footnotes for yourself, little cheat sheet, little notes, and just explain to him how this is something more symbolic than you understand. This is something deeper than you understand. We are taking vows before God that we truly love each other and that we want to be together forever. It's one thing for you as my partner and me to know this, but now the universe, through God, who is the witness, knows this as well. And that being the case, we have cemented our marriage forever. Explain this to him. And hopefully the result will be good. But here's one comment. These were all very practical tips and insights, Acharya. Thank you so much. All right, executive decision. I'm going to answer one and only one more question, actually, because it's an important one. And again, for anyone else, I apologize if I don't get to your question, but I just saw this, and it's an important, heartfelt question. Please accept our humble obeisances, Sri Acharya, and likewise to you as well. Although my husband has never given me any reason to, in fact, on the contrary, I have sometimes the recurring problem of not being able to trust him completely. And then I am plagued by fears. I really don't want that, and I know that it's actually completely unnecessary and harmful. What can I do to get this problem under control? Thank you, Sri Acharya. Very good question. And let me say that first of all, the very fact that you understand and realize this fact is itself something that is good and is a foundation upon which you can build trust, ultimately, in your husband. And the reason why that's the case is because, first of all, let's deal with why it is that you have this feeling, and then we'll go more into what I was just speaking about. The reason why you have this feeling, it does not arise from just nowhere. Again, it's probably somewhat connected to the previous question. That is, that for some reason or another, you have in your mind reason to not trust in general. And, I of course don't know what that is. Interestingly, maybe even you don't. Maybe it's something so subconscious that you're not even aware of why it is the case. But for someone to be untrusting towards someone who is worthy of trust, there are reasons why that have nothing to do with the partner. It has to do with them. That in their life, again, they have been betrayed, probably again and again, by people who have been very close to them. They've been betrayed in one way or another by family members, by people in previous relationships that they had, by friends, by who knows what, even institutions. There are individuals who literally have been betrayed by institutions, the educational institutions, politicians even, any sort of institution, the church. How many people, why have so many people turned to Sanatana Dharma? Well, they were raised in one church or another and they were betrayed in one way or another. This being the case, it is natural that there would be a little bit of distrust that's there. And even, what to speak of individuals who they seem kind of sketchy, even with people who they haven't really shown you any reason why you should be suspicious or not trust them. So again, it's understandable, it's natural, but the causal effect is natural. But it is not natural to who you are, and it's not natural to a healthy relationship. So in other words, if, as you say here, you know that, your husband, there's no reason to not trust him, he hasn't done anything whatsoever, but you say you are plagued by fears, ultimately what you need to do is indeed to examine what is it that gives you this fear in general. Is it something in your past? Is it something that someone did or many people did to cause this mistrust? Examining this, you must not become obsessed with this. In other words, I tell people this all the time. When you examine your life, your previous life, how you grew up, etc., and you see that there were traumatic things that happened, you want to look at those things, but not become obsessed by them. Go over these traumas again and again for no reason. No, you look at them, you quickly examine them, you find the lessons that are there, you realize, all right, this is why I'm not very trusting, because this person did this, that person did that, I put my trust in such and such, and they just betrayed me. Now you understand. You see the pattern. Now you understand why you have this little flaw that is there within you. And that's all it is. It's a flaw. It's like any flaw. It's something that you can overcome. Understand that you can overcome it. Now, how do you overcome it? First of all, generally speaking, from now on, surround yourself by people who you know you can trust. This is crucial. You must change your environment. In this case, you must change your environment indeed to change yourself. You must seek the proper association. So seek friends, and even only those family members who have never abused you, who are good influences in your life. You know, I'm someone who, I've said this, actually, that even if you have close family members and they've been abusive to you for all of your life, you have to separate from them. And that's even with everything that we said about family. Oh, family is crucial, but we're talking about the Kali Yuga in 2024. If you have had family members, it doesn't matter who it is, how close they are to you, and they have been nothing but abusive, they have been the worst sort of association humanly conceivable, then what to speak of friends, what to speak of others? You need to separate yourself from anything that is truly, truly harmful to yourself, and then on the contrary, positively, you must surround yourself by only those people who are good, who you know they are good, they only have your best interest in heart. They are individuals who, they are good examples, you can learn from them, you can grow by being in their company, etc., etc., and thus who you can trust. And when you surround yourself now with individuals who you can trust, when you are now situated in an ocean of trust, it will come to the point where trust will become something that is natural to you in its correct and proper context. This being the case, make sure that your husband is one of these people you surround yourself with. He's part of this ocean of people you can trust. Understand that. Know that. And eventually it will come to the point where, indeed, you will trust him. You will trust him. And in the meantime, also to give fuel to this process, as again, I've said several times, do everything in your power, do everything that you can to be as loving toward him as possible in the meantime, until it comes to the point where that lovingness transforms into trust. And again, make sure it's always reciprocal. You know, you seem to indicate that he's a good man, so I'm sure he loves you in turn. Reciprocally, love him with all of your being. Have him love you with all of his being. And in time, that trust will indeed be there. Trust is something that, like everything in nature, like a garden, like a flower, like a tree, like anything in nature, it grows. That trust will grow from that reciprocal loving relationship. Very good. I hope that helps. I very much hope that helps. And again, I'm not going to answer any more questions, but I will read a few of these comments because they're short and they don't require long commentary. Here someone says, thank you for a wonderful and practically relevant talk for all age groups, Sri Acharyaji. It is really appreciated. Jaya Shriman Narayana. My pleasure. Thank you for the clarity and perspective today, Sri Guruji. A blessing and a gift to have your company. Thank you very much. And we are also blessed to have your company here on Discord. Thank you so much for your wonderful response, Acharyaji. My pleasure. Thank you for the answers, Acharyaji. We've all benefited immensely from them. Jaya Shri Guru. I'll stop saying thank you to individuals and at the end just say thank you to everyone. Otherwise it'll take a very long time to go through these comments. God bless you, dearest Acharyaji. Dearest Acharyaji, you are an ocean. You are an oasis of mercy, love, and understanding in a cold desert. That's what I aspire to be. And in any small way that I can do that, it's God's blessing upon me. Namaste, Sri Acharyaji. Thank you for this wonderful talk and your conclusive and practical answers. I look forward to seeing the recording in the future, and it was a privilege to listen in this evening. Wonderful. Jaya Shri Guru is another comment. Jaya Shri Guru, Jaya Shriman Narayana. Oh, there are so many comments here, actually. I'm starting to think, yeah, this will take some time, but it's still less time than answering more questions. Thank you, Sri Acharyaji. I wasn't able to formulate my question, but it was answered nonetheless. Very good. Yes, knowing you, I'm surprised you couldn't formulate your question because you're very eloquent. Jaya Shri Shri Radha Krishna. Thank you so much, Sri Acharyaji, for answering my question. I cannot tell in words how grateful I am. My pleasure. This was the person who asked the last question. Namaste, Sri Acharya. Thank you as always for your wisdom. And finally, Jaya Sri Dharma Pravartaka Acharya, jewel to Sanatana Dharma in the modern age. Very nice. Well, thank you all for your wonderful comments. I often, one more just came in, more are coming in. I often don't read the comments because I try to just get straight to business, answer the questions, but then I often feel bad and I realize that's not fair for the wonderful people who make the comments. So there are two more, I'll just read these. Namaste, Sri Acharya. If any of us single devotees end up getting hitched due to your advice, we'll be sure to invite you to our weddings if possible. That would be wonderful. Thank you. I would love to attend. Thank you as always for your wonderful association and guidance in these times. Great sage. It is always humbling to think how Vedanta can inform one individual to the point where such answers are possible to reveal and share. Indeed, such is the nature of Sanatana Dharma. That's why we do what we do. We're going to save the world with Sanatana Dharma. Namaste, Sri Acharya. Thank you for the wonderful discussion. Jaya Sri Guru. And that is the last comment. Now let me thank you. Thank you all for being here. All the individuals who have been here on Discord, and we had a big, very wonderful group. Obviously, wonderful questions. We have individuals who are here in our temple as well. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for your enthusiasm. Thank you for not only your interest, but your sincere dedication to Sanatana Dharma. And before I leave, if I can say one thing, it is this. Please never give up on this path. If you have been on this path for 5 years, 10 years, if you have been on this path for 5 weeks, never ever give up. Please stick to this path. Please have patience. Please believe in yourself. Please believe in the Vedic scriptures. Please believe in God and believe in this path. And understand that if you practice this path with humility, with devotion, with honesty, with complete sincerity, you will have happiness. That's why this path exists, really, is in order for people to have happiness on every single level of who we are. Not just quote-unquote spiritual happiness. Oh, that first and foremost. Well, what have we been talking about today? As practical as it gets in every aspect of your life. You will have happiness if you take these teachings of Sanatana Dharma, apply them to your life, and practice them. I guarantee you will have happiness. So please continue to be involved on our Discord server. Those of you who are here, continue to take part in all these discussions. Please be as active as you wish to be on here. And continue to help us in every and any way that you can. Please volunteer. Please get the word out. Please purchase, read, and distribute our books to the world. Please forward links to our videos to everyone that you can. Please become a member of the ISDS, a tithing member if you can, etc., etc., etc. And in this way, make your life rich and wonderful by practicing Sanatana Dharma and by bringing that joy to others. I ask you all to please take very good care of yourselves. Namaste. Jaya Shriman Narayana.